A 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey everybody, Gary here with Guitar Tricks, and in this lesson I want to show you how to play power chords on guitar. Not all the different options, but some of the most simple and most common options. We're going to start with open position power chords, 3 of them that are kind of the basis for so many great rock and roll riffs, so many great AC/DC riffs, for instance, and then playing them up on the neck with a low E string root note and an A string root note. These are the 2 most common ways that power chords are played, so we're going to focus on those. Before we get into the lesson, please go ahead and click subscribe so that you get all of the latest and greatest content from Guitar Tricks, and if you want to be notified of any new lesson, be sure to also tap the bell and let us know in the comments what kind of lessons you'd like to see in the future. That's where we're always looking for ideas. All right, so what is a power chord? A power chord is just taking any note, which we're going to call a root note, let's say the note A, open A string, and then adding to that A what we call the 5th. So if A is 1, A, B, C, D, E, the 5th of the A chord is the note E. Now the 5th vibrates at exactly 1.5 times the frequency of the root. I know that sounds scientific, but I tell you just to say that the 5th is so complementary to the root and so neutral to the root that it almost sounds like you're just playing one note. It's just a little more thick and a little more powerful. That's why so many rock riffs are these power chords. It's just a way to play a cool riff but make it sound more powerful than if we just played one note at a time. However, it's also less colorful than a regular A chord. The difference between a power chord, which is just A and E, and an A major, is this other note which we call the 3rd. So A, B, and it happens to be a C sharp, A, B, C sharp. So if we add a C sharp, now it's a major chord, or if we add a C natural, it's a minor chord. So that 3rd is what makes it major or minor. Without the 3rd, it's just a power chord. The 3rd is also what gives it more color and makes it less like a glorified root note and more like an actual chord. So a power chord is kind of, arguably, it's not even a chord. It's just, you know, we're making that root note more powerful by adding a 5th to it. So that's it on the theory. Now let's learn how to play it. So in open position, it's really easy because we have, let's say for instance, A, and then we have the E right below the open A string on the 2nd fret. And then we could double up the A and make it even thicker. So what I like to do is just bar the middle 2 strings with the tip of my index finger, but not the B string. So the B string's muted out. So you want to get used to finding the right angle where you can bar those middle 2 strings, but mute out the B string with the flesh of your finger. If you're pressing too hard, now you have what's called an A6. Very different than a power chord. And then if you're getting the B string, then you're just getting a regular A major chord. So be very careful. You could also just play those 2 strings with 2 separate fingers and then, you know, mute out the B string. But it's really easy to just use one finger. You're better off in the long run just getting the right angle. Okay, so we're playing 3 notes, but really only 2 pitches. We're playing the A, the E, and then the A again. Okay, now the same thing occurs for the E power chord. That would be open E, E, F, G, A, B. The note B is the 5th, and then another E. So again, we're going to just bar now the A and the D string, but try to mute out the other strings with the flesh, and just be careful not to hit the higher 2 strings. Right, so we want to mute that G string. And then the D, now this power chord looks a little different. Open D string, then we've got the 2nd fret of the G. That's the note D, E, F, G, A. The 5th here of D is A. So we have D, A. And then the octave is on the 3rd fret. That's because the B string is tuned differently than all the rest of the strings. So instead of it just having 2 notes on the 2nd fret, now one of them's on the 3rd fret. So here we use 2 fingers. So index finger on the 2nd fret of the G, and then middle finger on the 3rd fret of the B. And then we just let the flesh of our fingertip mute out the high E string. Now, if we hit the open A string by accident, it's okay because that's the 5th of D, right? But we're trying to just get these 3 strings on the D string, the G, and the B. All right. So now we could put all that together to play like a classic power chord progression. So now we're going to think we're in the key of A, and we're going to do A. We're going to play the 4 chord in A, which is D. Then we're going to go to the 5 chord, which is E, and then back to A. So it's going to look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Back to the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Yeah, that's it. And all with 2 fingers, right? So guitaristic, so guitar friendly. Now, I'm not going to teach it right here, but I want you to listen to some AC/DC, listen to a song like Back in Black, for instance, and see how they use these power chords to write some awesome riffs. All right, so now let's learn how to play those same 3 chords, A, D, and E, but up on the neck. These are also powerful power chords. I started playing guitar in the grunge rock era, which was Nirvana, Green Day, Offspring, Silverchair, Smashing Pumpkins, and so much of their music is power chord based. So this was pretty much the first thing I really learned on guitar was these power chords. So let's say we want to play an A power chord starting from this root. Well, the way that we find a 5th from the low E string or the A string is we go over 2 frets, down 1 string. So A, and then A, B, C, D, E is the 5th. And that could be it. You can just play that, just 1 and 5. Now, if you do that, what I like to do is use my index finger to lightly touch the other 4 strings and mute them out. So they're all muted because my index finger is just lightly touching them, enough to keep them from ringing out. And then I can get all like Billy Joe Armstrong. Right? I'm strumming all 6 strings, but you're only hearing 2. So that is the main thing that you want to get in these power chords is they're all about muting. Being you're only playing 2 notes, you have to somehow mute the other notes unless you want to be really careful with the right hand, but that defeats the purpose of rock and roll, which is very driving and aggressive, right? So we're doing index finger on the 5th fret of the low E, and then ring finger on the 7th fret of the A string. Now, you might be like, ooh, that's really hard to press. It is. So what you want to focus on, it is if your hand is not in the right position. So what you want to try to do is get your hand parallel to the neck. So not like this, not like that, parallel. You see, this line is parallel with that line. So get it parallel, figure out how to position your arm and your hand so that it's parallel. Then put your thumb on the back of the neck and then just grab the notes, right? So when your hand is parallel to the fretboard, notice how my fingers can just rest very comfortably on consecutive frets. I'm not stretching anything. I'm just laying my hand, right? Now, if you have very small hands, you could use your pinky. Actually, I sometimes use my pinky, even though my hands are relatively large. I still often use my pinky. But you want to use the ring finger because the next step is we're going to add an octave, in which case we're going to need that pinky to add the octave. So once you get that in place, you're good to go. Now, for the D chord, we just drop this shape 1 string. So we have 5th fret of the A string, which is the note D, and then the 5th of that, which is A, is on the 7th fret of the D string. Same exact shape. But now you're going to use the tip of your index finger to mute the low E string, and still use your index finger to mute the other strings. So once you think you've got it, you want to strum all 6 strings and make sure you only hear 2. Then the E chord is up 2 frets. Same deal, the E power chord. Back down to D, and back down to A. Okay, so now if we play the same chord progression, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, A, D, E, A. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice. Okay, now we want to add the octave. So that means we have 2 of the root note. So that would look like this. A, E, and then with our pinky right underneath the E, we have the A. So one way to always find an octave, at least from the E and the A string, is go over 2 notes, down 2 strings. Those are both the note A. So the 5th is over 2, down 1. The octave is over 2, down 2. If we put those 3 notes together, now what I like to do is tuck the pinky right into the ring finger so that they're almost like a unit. They're touching and they could stay connected as long as I'm playing power chords, right? And so again, we use the index finger and maybe even the flesh of, the pinky to mute out strings. And now we only hear the lower 3 strings, low in pitch. Then when we move on to the D chord, which is right below it, same deal. So there we have 5th fret on the A, 7th fret on the D, 7th fret on the G. We mute out the B and the E, and we mute out the low E with the flesh of the index finger. And then the E string, we just move it up 2 frets, and then back to the A. So when I'm moving power chords around, I kind of skate along the string so I don't have to change my hand position, and it helps me get around. So if we do the same groove as we did earlier, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, A, D, E, A. Right? Now, you can experiment with these 3 chords, think like that's one idea. How about this one? Right? So many different things. Experiment. The fact that power chords are not major or minor, you can play, don't worry about music theory. You can literally play any melody as power chords. So let's try this. Ready? Like I'm just going to go. There's no right or wrong. So you can find a melody and then make power chords from it. So let's say your melody goes. Play that as power chords. Or maybe you go. As power chords. Cool, right? All right, everybody. So that is basic power chords. If you master everything in this lesson, you can play so many great rock songs, punk rock, grunge, hard rock. Power chords are where it's at for that style. Have fun with this stuff. If you want to learn more about playing guitar, head over to guitartricks.com, where you could take sequential courses on rock, blues, country, access a library of song lessons that are organized by difficulty with multiple songs per lesson, downloadable jam tracks, tab, all sorts of good stuff. Happy playing, and I'll see you in the next lesson.